Hello, everybody. It's Julie again, and here we are with a wonderful guest, and we're waiting in anticipation for our wonderful guest, Sue Lilly, who you've met before, who you all absolutely love having with me. And we're going to be talking about the astrology for 2023 and see what's in store for us. And as you know, Sue and I are great friends. There's quite a few recordings on my channel with her, but we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So over to you, Sue. Welcome.
Thank you, Julie. And just for anybody catching this at some other time, Julie and I are speaking at the end of December.
Yes.
So just, well,
Just in
as
case.
you'll see. Okay.
Yeah, just in
So,
case.
yeah, I had a good look at 2023 because let's face it, the last couple of years have been not easy.
No.
And there've been a lot of things that you would have expected to have got better when everybody was on lockdown and what have you, and a lot of things didn't. And it's like, and the point comes is where do we reach the knife edge when this stuff starts to turn? Oh, and guess what? 2023 is when this stuff starts to turn. Unfortunately, it's like if you try to make any major change in your life, it's like trying to turn a tanker on the sea. It takes ages to get into a different direction. So that's in some ways where we are for 2023. And a lot of the stuff, and I'm actually talking now from the chart for Bahrain. For the 1st of January. Other parts of the world don't actually alter very much. And there are certain parts of the world where things could get interesting. Let's put it that way.
Ooh.
Now, one of the major things that's been going on, Pluto has been, for the last 20 years or so, moving through Capricorn. And Pluto and Capricorn don't go terribly well together because one's trying to keep it all the same and Pluto's trying to go in there and completely change everything. And of course, there's never a winner. So moving into Aquarius, everybody's thinking, yeah, Aquarius is the sign of being free. Aquarius is the sign of new stuff happening, of exploration, of being able to speak more freely, etc., 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 which is true. But the changeover isn't instant. So for a little while, the Capricorn, Saturn is the planet linked to it, side of this changeover is going to stay in its old mode of control. Let's be honest, pushing general Joe Blogs people, everybody else people down, trying to actually manipulate. And of course, one of the problems we are in another bigger cycle of manipulation coming through the media, which of course we all now really know about.
Yes.
Is what you hear, you really can't believe, basically.
And
unless you've got other ways of finding things out, it is a pile of rubbish. And of course, people that want us to think other than the truth are quite happily feed us with a pile of lies. Try living in the UK at the moment. And it's basically, it's crazy. It's almost like living a version of the Matrix. It's like the truth that you sort of know what's going on and what you are being told what's happening tend to be slightly different.
Yes.
And I'm afraid this is going to carry on for a bit.
Oh.
And I think that all the people historically that have been in control of money on this planet will continue to try to keep control of money on this planet, and will try to keep control of the resources on this planet. But let's face it, we all know we've got to this point where the planet's sort of saying, yeah, but I think we might have reached the end of the line on this. And I mean, I know people talk about climate warming. Climate change is the key. It's not warming. You know, go over to America, see, it's not warming. You know, it's basically things, the patterns are not the same as they were. And so Pluto does this move into Aquarius in March. And one of the things I looked at was Pluto does this change of sign every 20 or so years, but it returns back to the same sign about every 250 years. So the question is what was happening 250 years ago?
Yeah.
And this is when I understood why American astrologers were getting a little bit
Edgy.
Twitchy,
GSLs.
because the American Revolution was 250 years ago. The French Revolution was 250 years ago. And the UK, surprise, surprise, dumped all its criminals onto Australia 250 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, right. And then I thought to myself, okay, well, let's have a look 250 years before that. What was actually going on in the early 1500s, which was back again? And guess what we have? We have the Spanish and the Portuguese colonizing South America.
Yeah.
And we have in the UK, we have the monarchy telling the Roman Catholic Church where it can go.
Yeah.
Because it wanted freedom from that.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, and even 250 years prior to that, it was a different flavor, because it was Marco Polo going to China. It was the Crusades. It was Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan racing across the plains of Asia. So you can see every time Pluto does a cycle round to Aquarius, freedom and change is sort of there, but there's also this thing about wanting things, controlling things, like in the case of the British establishment putting all its convicts onto Australia, you know, getting rid of a group of people that it deems inappropriate for whatever reason. And this thing about being, I think in psychological terms, it's called the other. Anybody who doesn't fit in tends to be pushed away or moved away. Now, of course, one of the most scary things over the last couple of years has been, even in the Western, places like the States and Europe, women are becoming, people are trying to control women. They're stopping abortion where it used to be legal. I mean, it's gone back to how it was now when I was in my teens. Yes. I know I've been alive that long to actually see the circle come round. And it's like, and on the 31st of December, a couple of days' time, women in the UK lose their maternity rights. Everybody loses their right to holiday pay. And of course, racial tensions are on the increase. Yeah. So it's not even between different races, sometimes within peoples of where something is thought of as being not in keeping, it's the other. And this is one of the problems, especially when Pluto starts to move, is it shows the underbelly of society. Right. And we're actually now seeing some of that. We're seeing how much, I mean, you look at what's happening in Iran. I mean, women aren't even allowed to go to university now.
No, and that's Afghanistan, yeah, and Afghanistan. I mean,
and that is stupid, because they're losing the intelligence, 50% of the intelligentsia that they need to run the country. Yes. You know, so it's not even logical. No. And so it's all it's because we've also got at the very beginning of the year Pluto, where it actually is New Year's Day, it's actually conjunct Venus. And this is where the women's stuff comes in. So the big question for the whole of this year, regardless of the fact that Pluto's now moved on, and it will be moving on in March into Aquarius, is how long will people put up with this stuff?
Yeah, really.
Because it's a lot to do with people's self-worth and how people relate to one another. And basically, it cannot go on like it is getting worse.
It is getting worse, yes.
And it's actually it's really getting quite scary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly, you're not in England, because I'm in Wales, but in England, it's gone back to the 1950s. It's gone back to the 1820s. It's like it's completely gone reverse. And it's like all the opportunities have just vanished. So yeah, it's I think the phrase is there's an English phrase, the worm has turned. No, it's like so much oppression. How much oppression will people take before something happens?
This happens. And of course, nowadays we have much more access to media and social media and all the other people. So maybe this time they won't get away with it in the end, because everybody's talking about it and they can talk about it instantly. So
it's very, yeah. I mean, very sadly, a day or so back, a young man was knifed in a nightclub in Birmingham. And of course, these days, people can't get away with it because people have mobile phones.
Yes.
So they've already arrested 2 men because everyone's walking around mobile phones, click, click, click. They see exactly what's happening.
Mm.
But the thing is, that will get in the news.
Mm.
But our politicians and our people supposedly in charge, who are raking in money and doing things they shouldn't do, manipulating things, of course, nobody wants to report.
No.
So it comes down, yeah, it's like, how is this truth going to get out?
Mm.
And how is this change that was probably, I mean, we know that women got the vote in America at a certain point, and people have had the vote. Different countries, they've been allowed to vote, they've been allowed to drive, where things have improved. But to see it so collectively now women being pushed down is actually quite scary. And to be absolutely honest, I fear for the male population, because anyone who's tried to do this before, they haven't come off very well. So we start the year off on that sort of note. We've got other things that are coming in. Like I said, is the big thing that was been bothering quite a few people is the Pluto moving to Aquarius. It's great, but it's what happened 250 years ago that's getting them worried. Yes. Because cycles repeat.
Yes.
And a lot of historians say if you don't learn from history.
And of course, we are trying to cancel history out in many places at the moment.
Yes, they know. Yes, this didn't happen. It's like, Well, one of the other interesting things is and it all comes together, as you'll see, quite neatly in about May, is that Jupiter moves from Pisces into Taurus. Mm-hmm. And it'll be a relief, from Pisces into Aries and then into Taurus. And it'll be a relief for a lot of people, because Jupiter in Pisces tends to be a little bit excessive. Yeah. And very, very dreamlike, which I think is why people can't always get hold of the truth, because it sort of escapes them. But as soon as Jupiter gets into Aries, it will. But unfortunately, Aries is not violent, it's a very martial sign. Mm. And one of the concerns is the last time that Jupiter was in this position, which was 12 years ago, Russia flattened Grozny as part of the Chechen War. Oh. So it does suggest that maybe Russia's not finished with Ukraine.
Yeah, I get that feeling.
By a long way. Mm. And that maybe Belarus and Finland need to watch themselves,
Mm.
because this cycles on that has come round again.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, out in May, but it means from now until May, it could be very, very uncertain. And of course, they do know that Russia, of course, has been working with Iran as well. So
yes.
it does sort of destabilize the area a little bit.
Yes.
And it does take us back to things 12 years ago.
Mm.
Now, when all this kicks off in May, is of course the same time as the USA's birthday. It's building up to Independence Day. It's building up to all the things, the anniversaries that there are in the States. And so this was why the American astrologers were getting very twitchy. They were getting very concerned. The positive side they could see is they thought that maybe Biden will step down and Kamala Harris will take over, because that would be a very positive move, change. But of course, the right wing in America, who don't like their women very much at all, let alone if they are not white, this won't help things. But I think this is the sort of question marks that are over, certainly from March until the end of May for this year. There's a lot of shifts going on, and Saturn itself moves from Aquarius into Pisces at this same time. Wow. And so it's all starting to funnel towards things shifting after Easter.
After Easter,
sort of time.
Yeah. So it might get really rocky, or it might get really smoother.
That's right. And I mean, there aren't so many eclipses this year as there's been in 2023, as there have been in 2022, which have been thick and fast. And of course, the trouble with eclipses is that they upset everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and so that there aren't so many this year. I mean, the one that there is, guess what? It's in April. It's the end of April. So,
oh well. So
there are a couple more towards the end of the year, but there is this one in April. There's a pair of them in April, which April, May. So we've got a set of eclipses because they always come together. You get a solar one and a lunar one.
Yes.
And so you're thinking, so we've got that piled in as well.
So we're in for interesting times, aren't we?
I know, it's that Chinese curse again, isn't it?
Like
so basically, if we look at January and February, basically poodling on the same way.
Yeah.
Not expecting anything
major,
anything big. I mean, there might be big stuff going on, but it's focusing much more as we get. It starts like the fire starts to be stoked in March, and because that's when Pluto changes signs. And there's a new moon on the equinox on the 21st. And so this starts the shifts.
To the 21st of March, yes.
Yeah. And hopefully one of the things they're also because of way things are changing is that the scams and things that are going on, because you can't switch on a computer these days without getting a pile of scam emails or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like that's going to still carry on. I mean, people, I think sometimes they're just the chance of a certain percentage of people falling for it makes it worth it doing. It's the same with the ones on the telephone. It's the same as I don't get text ones so much anymore. I went through a patch of those. But we've got a blocking capacity on our phone, so I shudder to think how many numbers are on there.
I've been getting quite a few, all international, all from dodgy countries. So Yeah, lots. In fact, last week, quite a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah, so the equinox is when things start to stoke up. I say it's a new moon on the equinox, and that really starts to push things, because actually it's quite interesting, because there are 4 times in the year, the solstices, which are midsummer, winter, and the equinoxes in the spring and in the autumn. And from the 21st of 2022, things started to move very, very, very slightly. So in other words, on the winter solstice, things did move a little bit. And on the spring equinox, moves again a little bit more. So it's almost like we're drifting in to this shift this year. And the thing is, although I've talked about the US, it's actually the same for a whole host of other countries like China, Russia, Japan, obviously quite a few of the European countries as well, all fall into this pattern for one reason or another. And it's like, so it's not going to be focused on one country. And it'll be whether the country itself, the choices the country makes, the people make, or the people are forced to make if they're being lied to, that's going to make an awful difference.
Wow.
And so and so April and May, more of this energy comes in, and it's May. There's a lunar eclipse on the 5th of May, and this is when the political focus really starts to home in.
Wow. So where will I be? I'm trying to think, where will I be at that time in May? Oh, and it's just before the coronation, King Charles.
Oh God, I've forgotten about that. Thanks for the reminder.
It's on the 6th, isn't it?
It is actually, yes, because the date that's been chosen is a crazy date, because this is the day after there are elections in England. For councillors and things like that. Unfortunately, I said being in Wales, we had ours this year, so that's right. I had forgotten about the coronation, because of course in 2022 we had knew that something was going to happen. And it was linked to the then Prince Charles. We knew something was going to happen.
And
of course, in 2023, and I think that's partly one of the reasons that they chose around that date. It's within 3 days of the lunar eclipse. And so so it'll be shake up UK time too. But like I said, certainly America and China, and obviously Russia will be in there, because Russia and China are now working in cahoots as well. So that middle bit could be quite interesting. I mean, obviously for ordinary people, they'll get caught up in it,
of course.
And the thing is, you have to remember, this has happened every 250 years. People survived it. It was drastic, but people survived it. I think this is the one thing that history tells you, is even when you feel totally hopeless and you can't do anything, you'd actually probably not meant to do anything, because you're talking about a bigger stage. So don't get worried about what is not yours to control.
Because you can't control it, so what's the point?
And certainly with all this stuff, this is all about, the politics and the leaders and the governments and that sort of thing. It's not about people in the street.
Never is.
I mean, one of the nice things is, once we get past that lunar eclipse in May, things do start to settle down, and we basically have most of June, people reflecting. In other words, people looking back, is what's happened. Is it what a country wanted? All that sort of thing. Are we all okay? However, it's quite likely that some of the old patterns will come back into play. So in other words, we haven't escaped yet. It's like being on a bit of elastic. It's gone back in again. Yeah, but we know that it's just habit that's gone back in, because basically what's underneath has changed.
Yeah.
And so it will come back round again. I think a lot of countries in July and August, there'll be leadership changes, there'll be things shifting, and people who've got the capacity to look broader, with a broader outlook, will actually be the ones that stay pulled in. I mean, it happened in Brazil. I think was it Brazil? The chappie that got in there, might have been Chile, who had much broader outlook and was very unexpected, but the people wanted him.
Yes, the populace vote. Yeah.
So it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And September as well, it much more settled.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 2 eclipses again coming up in October. And these once again focus on the States and Russia and China.
They're the ones, they are the ones that are playing at the moment anyway. So
yeah, that's right. And eclipses always mean things go a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
So it's like it's to be expected. And like I said, the old patterns people will see. Oh, well, that hasn't changed. Hang in there.
Yeah.
Because certainly the overall picture is a move out of what's been one heck of a mess.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time.
Of course. We all want everything to happen instantly, but of course we have to.
And of course, unfortunately, when you get into the anything to do with local government, let alone bigger government or whatever, it all goes at the snail's pace. Horrendously slow. But the point is, it is moving now.
So things are changing slowly, but
it is moving. And I mean, and looking forward very briefly to the next couple of years, it will gradually gain momentum as we go forward.
Good.
But it's almost like it depends an awful lot on how easily the old patterns are let go of from a governmental point of view.
And of course, they don't like to let go because they're comfortable in what they're doing and they don't want to change, and it suits them.
Well, it's also, as well as they know they can manipulate stuff. But as soon as you change something, you can't manipulate it.
No.
So you've lost that ability to control it. And I think the only thing that individuals can really do is to make sure that whatever it is in their lives that possibly needs looking at and reviewing is to do that. Because for ourselves to review and renew and not fall into the trap that we all see are falling into.
That's easy to do that, but the people I talk to, I mean, so many people are wanting to change now, and they are making efforts to change, and they don't want things to go back. So that's all age groups I get to talk to. I mean, the very young who are idealistic, obviously, but the older ones as well. They're ready to make the change, and they are doing it.
That's right. And that you don't see changes in the government above you.
That's the thing.
That's the main thing, is not to worry. Is keep on doing your thing. Keep on making the changes that you need to make. I mean, certainly, as I look back on my last 70 years, the best years living in the UK were sort of, 60s, 70s, early 80s, where you could go to evening class and you could learn anything you wanted to do, and it was free. And it was like there was a lot more. There was still the problems that there were poor people, but it wasn't so difficult to get the help that people have now. And it's like it was the Open University time. It was when, that sort of learning came available.
Yes.
And it was almost like nearly all of that has come in now. It costs you arm and a leg to go to university,
Now,
in a lot of places.
yeah.
And it is back to when it was impossible.
Yeah, and the quality
I mean,
of the learning isn't so great either now. And now they're cancelling out history and they're doing all this
yeah.
crazy stuff
And
that,
you see, because that controls people. If people
yeah.
can't learn,
And it's sometimes, yeah,
people
exactly.
can't think, if people can't find out what they're good at, and if, like you say, if history's been cancelled, it's being changed, and there is very little means to find out actually what was really going on, it means that the ordinary people then become impotent. They've got no oomph to be able to understand also what's going on.
And sometimes when they are speaking out, they're abused so badly that they just decide, well, I'm not, this is not worth it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't say anything. I mean,
well, that's right. And of course, that in its way, it's like it's trying to get it out without getting too much abuse.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're, I mean, especially if you're half sensitive, when you're being lied to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is absolutely astonishing watching people lie so without any facial expression.
It's just
whatever.
so, and you sat there going, oh,
what?
I know. I'm shocked. I mean, maybe I keep thinking nothing can shock me anymore, but then I get shocked every other day. But yes.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the problems when people aren't given the tools to think for themselves and aren't able to learn outside the box that they've been put in.
Yeah.
That's basically what's down to, put in a box. Is that, and of course it tends to be women that get put in the box for a start, for whatever reason. It's like you lose half the population.
Yeah, you do, literally.
And also you lose the humanity in things. It's
yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible, and I don't like it. Yeah, and you speak out against it, and then you're abused about it. And there's always that saying, "The empty vessels make the loudest noise."
Make the most noise. Yeah,
and that's what is happening.
And it is, and it's just absolutely astonishing. And then, of course, money becomes involved, and then it becomes a very powerful tool where people, I think, the run of COVID, the 2 years in UK where it was lockdown, etc., I think we went from having something like 165 millionaires to having something like 725.
Just because,
and most of that money was the people's money.
Taken.
Joe Bloggs's money.
Yes.
And you're thinking, the mentality that thinks that that's okay is something that
it's shocking.
I find difficult to get my head around, because I'm just not made like that. But I do know people who are, and it's when they climb up the ladder, that's when the trouble starts.
And they think it was perfectly okay. Perfectly okay.
Yeah. Perfectly okay, because that's what they want. It's like talking to a 2-year-old.
Yeah, it is really. And all the other stuff going on.
There's no logic or reflection in it whatsoever.
No.
It's
wow.
But at least you can excuse a 2 to 5-year-old because they're 2 to 5-year-old. But when someone's doing it and they're in their 50s, they need sorting out.
Yes, they do. Well, who's going to sort them
out? I'm afraid we've got a little bit more of that to come before it starts to turn round. But that process has begun. That process began on the 21st of December 2022.
Brilliant. So we have got something to look forward to.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the main thing for a lot of people is just carry on working on yourselves, carry on doing the healing work on yourselves, carry on finding out what you can do well, what you enjoy doing, being creative, you know, and allow that side of yourself to blossom.
That needs to grow. And yeah, and it's interesting because I did the card reading yesterday for 2023, and some of these things, it was all about truth, the truth coming out, and emotional loss, and letting go of things, and looking after yourself and finding that peace within. So it's very interesting because what you've said here is very much
it was interesting when I was thinking about I was writing down my notes list today. There were 2 tarot cards that came to mind immediately, and those people who know their tarot will know this. Is 7 of Cups, okay, and the 7 of Coins, or the 7 of Discs, whatever you call it.
Yes.
And that's what 2023 is all about. And then, of course, I realized that 2023 was a 7. Numerologically.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah.
I know. I realized that afterwards. You know,
you always do. We're always a bit behind the times, so we always learn.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, and I suddenly thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Wow. So
anybody who does their cards, they'll know what the year's about.
Yes, absolutely. So really, so we're in for an interesting year, basically. 2023, an interesting year to say the least, especially in March and April and May time.
Yes, so it's get your hat on.
Yes, definitely.
They would have said during the First World War in Europe, they would have said, find your tin hat.
Yes, I think that's
because of the debris coming down.
Yeah,
but
I
think you just have to stand back and watch.
Yeah, that's all you can do, because what can we do otherwise?
Not really.
Oh, Sue, this is going to be exciting. And of course, we have the coronation, and we've got King Charles and all that coming along in the UK.
Yeah, and of course, when we still appeared happily, merrily filling the hospitals and making people ill. Yes, Simon's brother and his niece didn't come on Christmas Day because they got COVID.
Oh, it's growing. And China's
still there.
Loose.
Yeah, and Japan's has started having a bit of a bad time of it for some reason as well.
Yeah.
So there's all that sort of, like I said, there's all this stuff that we're still dragging with us.
Yes.
That will take a little while to unwind.
I have a friend who has just got COVID for the 7th time.
Ouch.
She's vaccinated fully. She got it when she was in the USA, but when she was traveling. And going, oh my gosh, we didn't even know that you could get it that many times, but she has it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the problems. Even the vaccination doesn't actually stop you getting it.
No.
It just theoretically stops you getting it so badly.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of, like the common cold.
Yeah,
that's it. Having a cold once doesn't stop you getting a cold again.
No.
And of course, and COVID's the same. I mean, the main thing is that when people have it multiple times, is to try to ensure their immune system stays as strong as
she's doing, and she's fine. I mean, but she just couldn't believe it. She's shown us all her, her positive.
And it is get your immune system back up again for as quick as you can, and get everything ticking over. Yeah.
Well, Sue, this has been fascinating again, as always. So maybe we'll have to have you back in like March or April or May to see what's coming on.
I think I'd rather come back afterwards and say, this is what I was talking. This is what I was talking about. But like I said, the American astrologers I've been in touch with, they are not happy bunnies at the moment.
I can imagine. Oh,
because they're wondering what this cycle's going to be.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I think if I lived in France, I'd be wondering as well.
Yeah, definitely. Not sure about Australia, because we're not going to, maybe we will send people to Australia again.
Oh, I don't know. The thing they're trying to do, of course, is trying to send people to Rwanda.
Yes, exactly. So
Mm,
very interesting how it's all going to turn out.
yes.
Um,
But like I said, it's something to not to get worried because you
no,
can't control it.
can't control it. You
You
can't.
can't control it.
You can
You just
just,
got to
like you said,
sit
sit and
back.
watch and think, well, you're just watching a movie again because
Yeah, that you
that's
can't.
been
I mean, it's going to affect us all. I mean, it's obviously going to affect trade. It's going to affect all sorts of things. We'll all be affected by it, but
yeah.
there's nothing we can actually do about it. And I think that's one of the important things. Because feeling powerless doesn't do anybody any good.
No, no, not at all, even if they want us to feel powerless. So, well, Sue, you've got to give us food for thought as usual. So, I guess I should say a great big thank you to you. Of course, if anybody would like their own personal charts reading for the year or whatever, you contact Sue directly, Sue Lilly 52 at gmail.com. And
That's me.
that's you, and it's Lilly for Lily.
Yes.
Lily. You can contact me directly. I can put you in touch. You can also go on her website, which is
Yes. SueLilly.co.uk.
yeah. I would highly recommend that you have your readings done with Sue. It's a wonderful experience. Quite a lot of my clients go to her because sometimes, I'm working with them and I get a little bit stuck. We're stuck here. Why aren't we shifting? So I say, just let Sue have a look in your chart. She explains. We go, oh, okay. So we'll just leave that for a while and we'll work on something else. And then it all works out. So I really recommend it. And thank you very much for listening. And if you do like this, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, or please like. And I really, really look forward to talking to Sue again soon, and to all of you, and wish you all a very happy 2023. It definitely seems that it's going to be a very interesting year. And thank you for listening. Thank you.